This tutorial is broken up into two parts. The first part is how to configure a TP-Link wireless radio with your computer. With TP-Link radios, you get a PoE injector. And if you're configuring this yourself by following this video, that's why we made it. The injector has a PoE port that's meant to only be used with the radios. Do not plug this into your IP cameras because it'll fry it. This is passive PoE. The port on the bottom of the PoE injector, you can put a Cat5e cable here, and then you can close this cover on top. It has a little notch on the bottom to thread the cable through, and you can close it in there when you're installing it. I'm not going to close it right now, just to show you how we're setting this up for you to follow the next part of this video. On the PoE side, you connect the cable coming out of the radio. On the LAN side, you need a PC on the other end of the cable. One cable goes to LAN, the other end of that goes to the back of your PC with a NIC port on it, a network port. In my case, I don't have my computer nearby, so I'm illustrating that by using this PoE, by using this switch. Make sure you're connecting this directly into your PC to follow the next part of this video. Connect this to 110, hardwired, and please watch the next part of this video to configure the TP-Link radio to work with one of our wireless IP cameras.
So the TP-Link radio does need configured for your local network in order for you to join your Wi-Fi camera to its Wi-Fi, and so the camera and access point can communicate over your network. So the first thing you need to do is set your Ethernet port on your computer. Keep in mind you do need to use a computer with an Ethernet port in order to do this. So first you need to right click on the network tab, click open network settings. It may be different on Windows 10 and Windows 7, but essentially you need to get to your network connections page. You can see you can also do this from the control panel and then network connections page. On this computer, I just so happen to have two Ethernet ports, and I'm going to use Ethernet 2. You may only have one that says Ethernet 1, in which case you would need to temporarily use that Ethernet port in order to access the access point. So here they both say network, which means they are on my primary network, and I'm going to use the Ethernet port 2 to access the access point. So I need to right-click that network card or network interface or Ethernet port, click Properties. Then I need to change the Internet Protocol version 4. So I'm going to click on that, and then I need to go to Properties again. And then in here is where you can set a static IP address for your Ethernet port. Again, you're going to want to do this temporarily, and after you're done, you will want to go back in, if you only have one Ethernet port, and come back in here and make sure you set it back to obtain an IP address automatically. So first you're going to click on Use the following IP address, and the TP-Link access point, if you're not already on this type of subnet or network, then you would need to manually enter it in, and it would be 192.168, as I have done already. Then it would be 0. And then you're going to want to click on the last section, or last octet it's called, and enter in pretty much anything. As long as, again, you're not on this network already, you can enter in anything between 2 and 254, except 254 is the IP address of the access point. So you could do something like 253, or to keep it simple, just do 0.50. When you hit tab or you click down here into the subnet mask, it's automatically going to fill it in. You can use the default /24, which is 255.255.255.0, as it filled in automatically. And then you don't even need to enter in a gateway. So again, you just need to enter in this IP address. You could do .50 or whatever you like between 2 and 253. And I chose 50 just to keep it simple. But the important part is to do the 192.168.0. So click OK after you have done that. Close out of it, and now it should say unidentified network. That's because there's no router or network in place, and it's mostly just a direct connection between this Ethernet port and the TP-Link radio. So now we need to access the TP-Link radio by opening a web browser. I'm just going to use Google Chrome. Drag it over here, and now you need to type in the default IP address for the access point. That default IP address is 192.168.0.254. So see, that's why it's so important to be on this 192.168.0 network if your network's not already configured for that, because you need to be able to access the access point to configure it. So I'm going to hit enter on my keyboard to go to the page. You may get a security alert, in which case you can click through it and you'll get this not secure button up here. So after you get in here, the default username and password is going to be admin. So admin for both the username and password by default. And then you can tick the I agree to these terms of use and click login. So it's going to ask you to make a new username and password. I'm just going to use our factory defaults here at Avalonix. So new username would be admin, password, whatever password you would like to enter. Just make sure that you set a password that you won't forget in case you ever need to access the access point in the future, or access the admin panel, I should say. So I've gone ahead and made a new password, and then I'm going to log in with that new username and password. So this is the default page, the status page. Now the first important thing that you're going to want to do is go to network and then change it to your main network. So I know that my main network is .1, and then you could again change the last octet to anything that is open on your primary network. So I'm just going to leave it set to .254, as I know that IP address is open. If you want to confirm if the IP address is open and you know you're on that network, or if you have two NICs, then you could ping it. So I'm just going to go ahead and ping to make sure that that IP address is open on my main network. I received a destination host not reachable, so that means that that IP address is not occupied. I can leave this pinging by doing a -T at the end, and then change the IP address of my access point. I'm going to go ahead and enter in the gateway. This is going to be the IP address for my router. And then you can enter in the DNS as your router. And secondary DNS could be the Google 8.8.8.8 or the Cloudflare 1.1.1.1. And I'm going to go ahead and click apply. So it says the LAN IP address configuration has been changed. Please log in with a new IP address and save the settings for the configuration change to take effect. So you click OK. What this is going to do is change its IP address. And now it's on a 192.168.1.254 network. If after you change its IP address, you're unable to access it, again, you do need to go back into your network connections page. Go to that Ethernet port that you changed, right-click it, click Properties again, go into Internet Protocol version 4, click Properties on that, and then click back to obtain an IP address automatically and obtain DNS server address automatically. Click OK. So again, you need to make sure that you click obtain automatically for both the IP address and DNS server, then click OK, and then close. And after some moments, it should identify back to your network. It may be network, it may be the name of your router, it may be the name of your Wi-Fi. You should see that come back to what it was before you manually set the IP address. And you can see this whole time I've been successfully pinging because I'm getting a reply from the access point. And my browser automatically refreshed to that IP address. Again, if you don't get that happening on your case, then you do need to come back into your network connections and reconfigure this network port to automatically obtain an IP address from your router. That way, everything is back on your main network. So I was successfully able to do that, and I need to get back into the access point. And this is the page that I was talking about earlier where it says your connection is not private. Again, this is a local connection between my computer and the access point. I know that this doesn't matter, so I can click on advanced and then proceed to 192.168.1.254. It's not unsafe because, again, it's a direct connection between my computer and the access point. Now I need to log in using the username and password that I just configured on the access point. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and then click login. Says the user has logged in from 0.50. So in order to kick that other IP address out, I would just click the continue button. It's going to load this, and then I want to save my changes. It's just another way to save that IP address, although it's already saved and configured. And we can see that here, 192.168.1.254. The next thing you need to do is go to the wireless tab. So inside of the wireless tab, we can see the SSID here. And then we see that there is no password set on this SSID. So if anyone wanted to connect to this access point right now, they could do so if they wanted to. So I need to set a security mode and then set a password with that security mode. So I can select the drop down and then WPA pre-shared key. That's what PSK stands for. That's going to be the most secure security mode for your access point. And then this allows you to set your pre-shared key password. So I'm going to go ahead and just enter in something like, this is my Wi-Fi. And then I can click show. So this is the password that I'm going to create for this network. Obviously, you will want to create a more secure password for your Wi-Fi for your camera. And then you could change the SSID if you wanted to. For the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to leave it as the default TP-Link SSID that this access point was shipped with. And then again, I did enable a security mode, WPA, PSK, or WPA2. And then I entered in a pre-shared key password. This is my Wi-Fi. So if you wanted other people to access the access point with their phones, other than just your camera, then you would give them this password and tell them to connect to this SSID or Wi-Fi network. It would show up in their phone or on their laptop. So you need to save these settings by clicking apply. Just run back. You can modify the SSID if you want to. Make sure you set a security mode and make sure you set a password. So it says you have unsaved changes. Would you like to save your changes after clicking the apply button? So I'm going to click save. So the next part of this video will show you how to connect your Wi-Fi camera to these access point. So I'll continue when I get my camera online.
Now that you've configured your wireless radio, it's time for you to pair it up with our wireless IP camera. So these radios that are 2.4 gigahertz, this particular model is it says right here, 2.4 gigahertz. That's the kind of frequency you need for them to work with one of our wireless IP cameras by Avalonix. This wireless IP camera, although it has a network port that's for configuration, which you're going to connect this to on your network, so into your switch or router first in the next part of this video, so that you can get into the web interface inside this camera to pair this antenna up to that TP-Link radio. To do that, so again, connect this to your computer with a Cat5e cable, and then connect this to power so you can follow the next part of this video to pair the Wi-Fi on the camera to your radio. So that's pretty much it. Once you've done those two steps, step 1, configuring your wireless radio. Step 2, pairing your Wi-Fi camera up. You're all set, and then you can start watching your camera through your local network, or if you're using the P2P connectivity code, all the cameras have a P2P connectivity code on the outside. You can scan this into our app and start watching the camera remotely. It even has a micro SD slot inside here. You can put a micro SD and leave it in there. Don't keep taking it out because the mechanism can break. But then you can actually use that for local storage and use this as one web camera, a standalone camera, not a cloud camera, just a standalone camera that you manage, store your recording inside. If you want to get really fancy, you can have multiples of these and deploy them over a local network using wireless radios, and then use one of our wired NVRs to record video from the cameras continuously or on motion detection onto the NVR.
In this section of the video, I'm going to show you how to actually connect your Wi-Fi security camera to the TP-Link access point that we just configured. So the first step is to locate the IP camera's wired IP address. Again, the IP camera needs to be wired into your network or into your computer before you are able to join it to the Wi-Fi network from the access point. So in order to do that, you would either use the IP address configuration information that will be found on a label on the top of your camera's box. We usually configure the wired IP address for our customers to make it as easy as possible for them to access the camera and join it to whatever Wi-Fi network they want to. If we haven't done that for you, or if it's the default IP address, then you could use the config tool software to find the IP address for the wired portion of the camera. So I have the config tool installed on my computer, and I'm going to open it here just to show that that camera's IP address does show up. And it's the 192.168.1.109 camera on my network. So that would be the default wired IP address for a Wi-Fi camera. And that's the IP address I need to use in my network to access the camera and join it to the TP-Link's Wi-Fi network. So I could either click the web button here to automatically open up a web browser, but I'm going to show how to get to it manually. So I'm going to close out of the config tool, and you can even use this config tool if you're unsure how to find your camera over your network. The config tool will be able to search your network for that camera. So I'm closing out of that, and I'm going to open up a web browser, and I need to manually type that IP address in. Again, you would need to type in the IP address that's on the label on your camera's box, or use the default 109, or it could be sometimes 108. Again, that's 192.168.1.109 or 192.168.1.108, or the IP address on the label on your camera's box. So I'm going to hit enter after entering that IP address in. And then this is the web interface for my camera. I need to log in using the admin username and password. If you're unsure what that is, again, it will be found on that label where the IP address information is. So I'm going to click login. And then to get to the network settings, I need to first go to the setting tab at the top. And then go to the network tab at the left-hand side. Then click on the Wi-Fi tab. What this is going to do is search my area around me for different Wi-Fi networks. Here I can see the TP-Link Outdoor with the numbers and letters that I left as default earlier in this video. And to join this camera to that Wi-Fi network, I need to double click on the TP-Link's SSID or Wi-Fi network. And then I need to manually enter in the password. If you'll remember from earlier in this video, I made that password, "This is my Wi-Fi." So you'll need to type in the password that you created for your TP-Link's Wi-Fi network when you were in the TP-Link's web interface. So I've typed that password in, and then you would click the connection button to tell the camera to try and connect to that Wi-Fi network. So it said searching at the bottom. Now it says connecting ... What this is doing is it's attempting to connect to that Wi-Fi network. Then if you've correctly entered in the password that you just created on the TP-Link access point, you should receive a connected status, and you'll note that it automatically got an IP address from accessing the TP-Link access point, which is also connected to my router. So my router is actually through the TP-Link access point giving this camera a Wi-Fi IP address. So after you've connected it to the Wi-Fi and it successfully got an IP address, then again, you could open up your config tool just to confirm that it's connected over your network. And now you'll note that I have a 192.168.1.194 and the wired 192.168.1.109. To further test this, I would use this IP address in my web browser by copying and pasting it. So I can highlight it, right click, copy. Or if you're on Google Chrome, you can just straight up click, go to 192.168.1.194. And I'm going to go ahead and do that. So again, you could copy and paste it into the address bar, replacing the IP address you have here, or right click it and click go to if you're in Google Chrome. So I'm going to click go to. It's going to open up a new tab. So this is actually accessing the camera via the TP-Link access point because the camera is now connected to the Wi-Fi that access point is broadcasting. You can, even to further test this, disconnect the camera from the Ethernet that you have it connected to. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. If I come over here and I refresh the Wi-Fi page, so I can, after I refresh that page, I can log back in. Click login. And then I have the same video stream as I did from my wired one. I can go click back here into setting, click back into network, click back into Wi-Fi, and I'm still connected to the TP-Link access point with the 192.168.1.194 address. Keep in mind that your IP address will be different depending on what your router provides to it. So if we go to the TCP/IP page, Here's the Ethernet card. It's 109. And then I click on wireless. It has the 192 because it's set to DHCP. So DHCP requests an IP address from the router in the network. Hopefully this video helps you set up your TP-Link access point and also connect your wireless IP camera to the TP-Link access point Wi-Fi network. Thank you for watching.